Hey everybody, it is week 10, this is CIT 12, and what can I say? It's our second practical exam. This one is on Excel. Just like before, we've cleared everything off the schedule. There is no chapter to read this week, there is no quiz, there is no lab, there is no discussion. It is just you and the Excel practical this week. And that way you can spend as much time as you can on the assignment. We know that it's a longer one. These tend to be sort of project-based, so we want for you to have all the time you need in order to succeed on that practical exam. The exam itself will work a lot like our old one, the one that we did on Word. You'll have a set of files that you need to download, one of which will be an Excel file that you'll be working in. That's going to be your project file. Another one will be a Word file that has a whole bunch of instructions, and it just tells you, hey, step 1, do this thing. Step 2, do this other thing. And you're just going to be editing this Excel file until you eventually are done with all the steps. You think you've done everything the way that you're supposed to have done it. And then you upload the final file back to my IT lab and it grades you. If you'd like more details, I have an entire video showing you the whole download process, upload process, as well as showing you the Excel practical itself, and maybe even going through the first step or two. So that you can see kind of how to begin and how to proceed with the exam. That video will be in the Week 10 weekly content folder. Just like the last exam, you'll be doing this in your own locally installed version of Microsoft Office. So you need to have Excel installed on your computer in order to do the exam. If you don't have Excel, no problem. You get Microsoft Office for free as a student at Fresno City College. Now, assuming that you've already done this for the Word exam, you don't have to worry about it. Excel is already, it got installed with Word last time and you're perfectly okay. But if you need the instructions, I also put the video on how to download Word or how to download Office for free as a student. That video is also in the Week 10 folder if you need it. And as always, if you have just a terrible time with your computer, for some reason it's crashing and you can't get it to work, you always have access to our labs on campus, which have Microsoft Office installed, and you should have plenty of access to my IT lab. You can download stuff there. Also, you don't have to worry about going from computer to computer. Just save that file that you're working on, probably along with the instruction files, on a pen drive or to your Dropbox account, however you want to do it, and you can work on this exam from multiple computers. So you can transfer from one to another, no problem. Now, some of you may want some helpful hints when it comes to the exam. Some of these I do cover in the video on how to do the exam. But in case you're going to skip that video and just start the process because you feel extra confident, which is perfectly fine, just some helpful hints. Excel, more so than Word, is really dependent on the order in which you do things. And that's only because you're creating these formulas that will give you a value perhaps based on the values in other cells. So if you skip a few steps and then you go to a later step and you do it, you may not see the value you're expecting to see because you didn't do the earlier step. So it's trying to build something or give you a value based on values you haven't yet calculated. And so as much as possible, try to do this exam in order. One step followed by the next step, just trying each step as you go. Now, if for some reason you're stuck on a question, right, and you don't think you've got the formula right for this particular step, or whatever that step happens to be. But here I'm talking about specifically formulas. You may, do a formula, you don't think it's right, you move on to the next step and think, oh, well, now I'm going to get this one wrong because the earlier step was done wrong. That may actually not be the case. When my IT lab does the grading, they look at the formula, not at the value. So even if you got maybe a formula wrong somewhere else, right, and you're adding two numbers together that you shouldn't be adding, or whatever, the values earlier on in an earlier step are wrong. You'll be marked wrong for those values. But so long as the formula is correct in the second, step, you're going to get full credit for that, right? So it's looking at the formula, not necessarily the value. So point being, don't give up. Don't think like, oh, well, I got these ones wrong, therefore I'm going to get all the ones after wrong. First off, the exam isn't set up so that all the values are based on some early value. But for the ones that do have a relationship, even when you get to the second formula, you're just being graded on that formula. You could get it right for getting the formula right, even if the value it shows isn't right because you screwed up on an earlier step. And as always, if you have any questions or problems with the practical exam, feel free to send me an email. Several of you have for the last practical exam, and there's things that I have the ability to do that you don't have the ability to do. So if for some reason something's not uploading or whatever, I might be able to work something on the back end to make it work. For the most part, people took the word practical and had a perfectly fine time. Scores were fairly high. The uploads all worked brilliantly. So there were a couple small adjustments that you've probably seen on your grade. They've just been bumped up a little bit just due to a few things where it was like, well, that actually was sort of an unfair grading by the computer. And so anyway, the same thing will happen with Excel. So just know that it's not just going to be a computer grading you. There's also going to be a human element as well. All right. So with that, if you have any questions or just need some help because something just systematically went wrong with the system. Systematically went wrong with the system. That's not what I meant to say. If something goes wrong with the system or you need some assistance, be sure to send me an email or send me a text, whatever you prefer. All right. Yeah, that's it. Good luck, and I will see you online.